The midday sun hung heavy over Route 41 as the roar of engines rolled like thunder across the open road. Chrome gleamed, leather creaked, and the scent of burnt rubber and gasoline cut through the air. The Hells Angels chapter out of Fresno had just pulled into a dusty roadside diner for lunch, a place most travelers avoided, but these men treated like their personal stop between chaos and calm. Among them was Cole Maddox, a man whose reputation alone could silence a room. Tattoos coiled across his arms like stories told in ink, and his presence carried a kind of quiet gravity. He wasn't the loudest or the wildest, but when Cole looked your way, you felt it. A stare that could cut through lies and pride all the same. Inside the diner, the fluorescent lights buzzed softly. The cook, a thin man in his late 30s named Evan Harker, flipped burgers behind the counter, his movements methodical and distant, like a man cooking on autopilot. He had worked there for 6 months, long enough to be part of the scenery but quiet enough to go unnoticed. That day, however, something about him caught Cole's attention. As Evan leaned over the counter to place a plate of fries, Cole saw it. Faint, purplish marks along the edge of his bottom lip, half hidden under the fluorescent glare. At first it looked like a burn, but when Evan flinched after accidentally brushing against Cole's hand, the biker noticed the way the man's whole body recoiled. Not from fear of him, but from something deeper. Cole's instincts, honed by years of reading danger, stirred. He didn't ask. Not then. He just watched the way Evan kept his head down, watched how he flinched when someone laughed too loud, watched how his smile looked like something learned, not felt. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unexpected heroes, take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal, because the story you're about to hear will remind you that compassion can come from the most unexpected souls. Later that week, Cole found himself back at the diner alone. No bikes, no noise. Just him, his black leather jacket, and that same smell of grease and coffee. Evan was there again, moving slower than usual. His right arm was stiff, and his lip, the bruise, was worse now, swelling faintly, a crack along the corner. Cole didn't say a word until Evan came over to refill his coffee. Then, quietly, he asked, "Who hit you?" Evan froze. The pot trembled in his hand. His voice came out small. "Nobody, just kitchen accident." Cole didn't press, but his gaze didn't move away. "Burns don't bruise," he said flatly. Evan looked up then, and something flickered in his eyes. The kind of silent panic that comes from knowing you've been seen when you've tried so hard not to be. He swallowed, turned, and disappeared into the kitchen without another word. Cole sat there for a long time after that. He had seen plenty of violence, given it, taken it, lived through it, but there was something about the quiet kind, the kind that hides in homes behind locked doors, that made his stomach twist. He left without finishing his coffee. That night, Cole couldn't sleep. He sat in his garage, surrounded by wrenches, tools, and the scent of oil, his mind replaying that look on Evan's face. His own father's voice echoed in memory, the sound of boots, of yelling, of a boy hiding in a shed while his mother cried in silence. Cole had promised himself long ago he'd never be that kind of man, but maybe he could be something better. The next morning he returned to the diner again. This time the manager, a stocky man with a gold tooth named Ray, was there, loud, impatient, and barking orders. Cole didn't like him from the start. He saw the way Ray grabbed Evan's shoulder when he dropped a plate, his grip too tight, too familiar. It wasn't just a boss correcting an employee, it was dominance, practiced and cruel. When Ray noticed Cole watching, he straightened up and said, "Everything all right, biker boy?" Cole smiled thinly. "Fine. Coffee's cold, though." Evan rushed to refill it, but Ray stopped him. "I'll handle it," he said, slapping Evan's back harder than necessary. The cook flinched. Cole didn't miss it. Neither did Ray. He smirked, a small, ugly smirk that said he enjoyed it. Cole left without finishing his coffee again, But this time, he didn't drive off. He parked his bike around the corner, leaned against it, and waited. Hours passed until the sun dipped low and the diner closed. He watched as Evan exited out the back door, shoulders hunched, holding a paper bag. Behind him came Ray, shouting something and grabbing his arm roughly. That was enough. Cole stood. The next few minutes were quiet and slow, like a storm gathering before it breaks. He walked up behind Ray and said, "You got a problem with your cook? You take it up with me." Ray turned, his grin smug until he saw who it was. "Look, man, this ain't your—" Cole didn't let him finish. "Don't touch him again." His voice was calm, low, but there was steel in it. Ray scoffed. "You bikers think you own the world, huh? This is my diner. My rules." Cole stepped closer. So close Ray could see the tattoos crawling up his neck. The Reaper wings, the skull, the words "Ride to Live." "Then consider this your warning. You touch him again, and I'll make sure you can't lift your hands for a month." Ray tried to laugh it off, but Cole didn't move. Eventually, the manager backed off, muttering under his breath as he disappeared inside. Evan stood frozen, clutching his paper bag like a shield. "Why'd you do that?" he whispered, voice trembling. Cole shrugged. "Because someone should have done it for me once." Evan didn't answer, but his eyes glistened before he turned and walked away. Over the next few days, something changed. Evan started to smile, faintly, but it was real this time. He brought extra fries for Cole, sometimes a slice of pie on the house. They talked, slowly. Evan opened up, not all at once, but in fragments. A bad marriage, a wife who left him, taking everything but his debt, a brother who blamed him for their mother's death, and then Ray, his boss, his landlord, his tormentor. The man had lent him money once, then kept him chained with it, taking half his pay every week, beating him when he fell behind. Cole listened. He didn't interrupt. He just nodded, his jaw tight. One afternoon, Cole made a call. 2 days later, Ray's car was repossessed. His landlord received a notice for unpaid taxes, and an anonymous tip about illegal gambling in the diner reached the sheriff's office. By the end of the week, Ray was gone, fired, broke, and out of town. When Evan found out, he didn't ask questions. He just stood there behind the counter, eyes wide, trying to hold back tears. "He's gone," he whispered. Cole just nodded. "Good. Now you can breathe." The diner changed after that. Evan started taking ownership, redecorating, hiring a new waitress, repainting the walls. Cole and the club still came by, but now they paid double, leaving fat tips on the counter. Word spread fast, not just about the food, but about how the place felt. It wasn't just a diner anymore. It was a sanctuary, a spot on the long, endless road where rough men could sit down, eat in peace, and feel a little bit human again. But one morning, about a month later, Evan did something that caught everyone off guard. When Cole came in, there was a small box on the counter. Inside was a silver chain with a tiny pendant, an angel's wing, rough-edged and handmade. "Made it myself," Evan said quietly, "to say thanks for seeing me when no one else did." Cole looked at it for a long time. "You don't owe me anything." Evan shook his head. "Maybe not, but I needed to remind myself that good men still exist, even the ones the world calls devils." For the first time in a long time, Cole smiled. A real one. He reached across the counter, clasped Evan's hand and said, "Keep flying, cook." Months passed, and the diner became a landmark. Travelers stopped not just for the food, but for the feeling. There was a picture of the Hell's Angels crew on the wall. All of them smiling, even Cole, with Evan standing proudly in the middle, apron dusted with flour. The caption read, "Not all angels have wings." Sometimes people would whisper about what happened, how a man who looked like a sinner became someone's salvation. But Cole never talked about it. He just kept riding, wind in his face, the angel wing pendant hanging from his mirror, catching the sunlight as he roared down the open road. Because he knew kindness doesn't come from perfection. It comes from pain, from choosing to break the cycle, not repeat it. And that choice, that single act of compassion, had changed 2 lives forever.